Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yadutaki Ravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamunati Ravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल गंधराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जयनंद कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रवतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृदयन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सहस्रताम्। नष्टप्रायश भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. So today we will be covering Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, Chapter 4. The atrocities of King Kaṁsa. In the previous chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, Chapter 3, the birth of Lord Krishna, we heard how Lord Krishna appeared and how Vasudeva Krishna was taken by Vasudeva, his father, to Gokula. And there he was exchanged, Lord Krishna was exchanged with who? The daughter one of Yashoda was none other than Yogamaya. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 4, verse 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bahiranta Puradvaraha Sarpa Purva Vavadra Tato Bala Dvanim Shutva Grahapala Samuttitaha. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Vahi Antaha Purva Dwaraha. The doors inside and outside the house. Sarvaha. All. Purvavat. Like before. Avrataha, closed. Tataha, thereafter. Bala Dhvani, the crying of the newborn child. Shrutva, hearing. Grahapalaha, all the inhabitants of the house, especially the doorman. Samuttitaha, awakened. Translation by His Divine Grace S.G. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Shukadeva Goswami continued, My dear King Parishad, the doors inside and outside the house closed as before. Thereafter the inhabitants of the house, especially the watchmen, heard the crying of the newborn child and thus awakened from their beds. Purport. The activities of Yogamaya are distinctly visible in this chapter, in which Devaki and Vasudeva excuse Kaṁsa for his many devious, atrocious activities, and Kaṁsa becomes repentant and falls at their feet. Before the awakening of the watchman and the others in the prison house, many other things happened. Krishna was born and transferred to the home of Yashoda in Gokul. The strong doors opened and again closed, and Vasudeva resumed his former condition of being shackled. The watchmen, however, could not understand all this. They awakened only when they heard the crying of the newborn child Yog Maya. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has remarked that the watchmen were just like dogs. At night, the dogs in the street act like watchmen. If one dog barks, many other dogs immediately follow it by barking. Although the street dogs are not appointed by anyone to act as watchmen, they think they are responsible for protecting the neighborhood. And as soon as someone unknown enters it, they all begin to bark. Both Yogmaya and Mahamaya act in all material activities. Prakati Priyamanani Gure Karmani Sarvashah. But although the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead acts under the Supreme Lord's direction, Maya Dakshena Prakati Suyate Sacharacharam. Dog-like watchmen, such as politicians and diplomats, think that they are protecting their neighborhoods from the dangers of the outside world. These are the actions of Maya. But one who surrenders to Krishna is relieved of the protection afforded by the dogs and dog-like guardians of this material world. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yakripatadham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So I was looking at the meaning of the word atrocity. It means a wicked or cruel action, which includes violence or hurting others, causing injury to others. So the atrocities of King Kaṁsa, that's the chapter. And here, it reminds me of a story Srila Prabhupada used to narrate often. Once there was a washerman. He had two pets. Washermen always have one pet we all know of. A donkey, right? Or ass, as we say sometimes. So, and he also had a guard dog, a dog. So washermen would of course carry all this bundle of clothes every day to wash on the donkey, and the dog would follow. And this washerman was very miser. So he would not feed his donkey or dog. Of course, donkey, by way of nature is in mode of ignorance. So even though the donkey knows that they can find grass anywhere to eat, yet he is engaged in this service of his master, thinking that his master will be pleased and that would, please him. Sometimes the materialists are considered that way. They think that we satisfy our senses and the senses are pleased, then we will enjoy happiness. Does that really happen? No. So again, Lord Krishna in the 17th chapter, he identifies happiness in the three modes. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So here donkey is in the mode of ignorance, thinking what is not. So at night, it just so happens that everyone's living in the house and some thieves they enter. So at that time the donkey tells the dog to wake up the master, because he's a guard dog, right? What's the duty of a dog? To protect the house. But dog says, our master doesn't take care of us, why should we take care of him? So he refuses to bark to wake up his master. So donkey thinking that okay, the dog is not doing, let me help. And the donkey starts braying. And hearing his braying, his master comes with a stick and just beats him up and goes back to sleep. So yes, there are watchdogs who are supposed to be watching. But if you are not a watchdog, don't try to take that responsibility, because you may still be hurt and not receive any benefit. So we should understand our position in this material world. It's a very fearful position, yet by the grace of Lord Krishna, we become fearless. And to become fearless, the process is very simple. just raising your hand and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And this is a prayer to engage us. We are praying to the Lord through Radharani, through the Mother, Radha, to engage us in their service. And when we are engaged in their service, we have an umbrella over our head, right? So it may be raining. It's just that, for devotees, the rain doesn't stop. It continues to rain. This is the nature of this material world. The miseries are continuing. But we get an umbrella over our head. So we may be experiencing the miseries that they are going on, but we are not suffering. And that's the difference. While materialists, they are always in anxiety and fearful state, just like Kaṁsa. Here Kaṁsa, when he is informed by his watchman that a baby is born, he gets up and his hair is still loose and he's thinking, oh, Kala has come. Lord has appeared as Kala. So Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita reveals to Arjuna that I am time. So Kaṁsa is thinking this way. So he is Krishna conscious unfavorably, right? So that's important. We should be favorably Krishna conscious. And he comes. Kaṁsa comes immediately to the prison house. And what does he see? That yes, behold, there is a baby. And Devaki is holding the baby. So he's about to snatch, and what does Devaki say? That, oh, this is a girl. You have to be killed by the 8th son. Don't kill this, because, and she will be your daughter-in-law. So now Devaki, she has already given birth to Krishna. And Vasudeva Krishna has been taken to Gokul by Vasudeva, the father. Vasudeva is the father, Vasudeva is the son. And now here, what is Devaki doing? She is trying to save someone else's daughter. So it shows the attitude of a devotee. She is showing that she is in that transcendental position. That she is ready to put herself on the line to save someone else's daughter. While it comes, he is acting and showing his atrocities, his cruelty. He is so cruel that he wants to kill the daughter of his own sister. And he doesn't listen to her. He immediately snatches the baby and on his knees, he is about to smash the baby on a stone, the head of the baby. Just like he had done to the Shatgarbhas, the previous 6 sons of Devaki. And how did Devaki identify those? That you have already killed my sons, the 6 sons I had, who were as brilliant as sun. And this is a daughter who will be your daughter-in-law. So she is identified in that manner. Yet at the same time, Kaṁsa is not listening. There is also another aspect that's identified here, that when Devaki is pleading to Kaṁsa, she is actually attacking him with words. That you are so cruel that you killed my 6 sons before, and you are trying to now kill my daughter. And then the second one is Sama and Dam. So again, in material world we have this Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed. This is for the materialistic dealing. And Devaki, she was, a Kshatrani. So she was using similar strategy, Sama, Dama and Sam. So she is basically saying that, please give it to me as a gift. You are a valiant king, this doesn't suit you. So she's trying to, console him, she's trying to remind him that he is the Bhuja king, king of the Bhuja dynasty. And this action of killing a girl, right? Kshatriyas are known to not raise their hand on women. Right? They would not raise. And here, Kaṁsa is trying to kill a girl, and what kind of, like an infant. She just took birth a few hours back. So he's trying to kill that girl, and so she's reminding him. And then the third is, she's saying, give her to me as dhan, as a gift, as a charity. Here comes, in his cruel manner, he breaks all her ties with his sister, Devaki, by snatching away the baby girl, and now he is on his knees smashing, about to smash the baby girl, the infant, onto a stone, her head. Yet at the same time, what happens? The girl quickly escapes his grip and flies up in the sky and takes the form of Yogamaya, Durga. And she is dressed in silk clothes, and she is having a garland, and she is appearing how many arms? 8 arms. And so, in her 8 arms, she is holding a bow, a trident, arrows, a shield, a sword, a conch shell, disc, and club. So, except for conch shell, which is to declare, a war or a fight, all are weapons that she is holding. And Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, identifies that seeing this form, sometimes people get bewildered. They say, oh, Vishnu has 4-arm form, Durga has 8-arm form, so she must be stronger. In that case, they should read Bhagavad Gita. Because when Lord takes the universal form, how many arms does he have? Unlimited. Arjuna he's a devotee, and he's saying, I am fearing looking at this form. Because Lord is showing his universal form, but it's also representing the Kala form. Right? As how all the warriors from the battlefield are rushing into his mouth, and they are being killed, being chewed by the Lord as Kala. And he's shown as unlimited arms, with unlimited arms. So here, when Yogamaya she becomes famous as Durga. And we covered in the previous chapter, when Srila Prabhupada in the purport explained, Yashoda means one who gives fame. So she was born as the daughter of Yashoda Mai, and that's why she becomes famous as Durga. Now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada very nicely described that the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Both are known as Durga. And what's the meaning of Durga? The one who is, the caretaker of a Durga is Durga, right? So in the fort, Durga means fort. And Srila Prabhupada translates that in case of Mahamaya as the prison house of this material world. So Mahamaya is the superintendent, the jailer of this material world, the prison house. And yoga, the very meaning of yoga is one who's connected to the Supreme, right? So Yogamaya is the superintendent in the spiritual world. She is the one who's arranging for all the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So when sometimes people get bewildered, if that's the case, Lord Krishna appears 5,000 years back, 5,500 plus years back. When he appears in Vrindavan, at that time, who is in charge? Yogamaya or Mahamaya? In Vrindavan, when Lord Krishna appears, who is in charge in Vrindavan? Yogamaya. Because she is directly in connection with Lord Krishna. And when Lord is telling Arjuna, Devi Hiresha Gurumai Mama Maya Duratyaya Mamevi Prapadyante Mayam Itam Tarantite. Who is he referring to? Mahamaya. Gurumai. The 3 gunas. Guna is also referred to as ropes. And mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance, the three modes of material nature. That's all. But one who surrenders to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna can quickly cross over this material world. So now comes the point of, we are talking about Yogmaya and Mahamaya. And Acharya Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains it very nicely. He gives the reference of bank of the river, right? So, Jivera Krishnera Tathastha Shakti Veda Ved Prakash. So, Jivera Surupaya Krishnera Nityadas. So, the living entities, we the living entities, are eternal servant of Lord Krishna. And we are the Tathastha Shakti. Tata is the bank of a river. We are the marginal energy. So the internal potency, the chit potency of the Lord is Yogmaya, who's an expansion of Radharani. And she is also known as Anuja in this particular chapter. When Shukdev Goswami is saying the younger sister of Lord Krishna. And then external potency is, external energy is Mahamaya. Both are Maya. So Maya, we don't understand, it is that which is not, which is normally referred in the case of Mahamaya, Durga. And so Srila Prabhupada explains it also very nicely at another reference. And sometimes when I say Srila Prabhupada, people, the reference is in Brahma Samhita. And the reference is, Durga worshipped by the people of this mundane world is Durga described above. So which verse is this? This is Brahma Samhita chapter 5 verse 44. Srishti sthiti pralaya sadhana sakti reka chayeva yasya bhogana vibharati durga ichchanurupa yasya cha cheshtate sa govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So the external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving and destroying agency of this mundane world. Adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. So this can directly be related to Devi Hesh and Gurumari Maya Duratya. And when I said Srila Prabhupada, everybody thought of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While this commentary is given by his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. So sometimes two personalities may have the same name, but may have completely different set of activities and engagements. So Durga worship by the people in this material world is Durga described above in this verse 44 of Brahma Samhita chapter 5. But the spiritual Durga mentioned in the mantra, which is the outer covering of the spiritual realm of the Supreme Lord, is the eternal maidservant of Krishna, and is therefore the transcendental reality whose shadow, the Durga of this world, functions in this mundane world as her maidservant. So again, there is a reference given to a shloka, number 3. So here, this is where we are learning to understand. So when Kaṁsa sees this, right, he's astonished. First he is wondering, how could Devaki, his sister, could give birth to Durga, right? So materialists, they are generally worshippers of Durga, the one who are, religiously oriented, and sometimes they are oriented towards, some level of piety. So even Kaṁsa, he has been glorified that he's better than the current rulers, the politicians and the administrators, because they don't even take the authority of Durga, the warden of the prison house of this material world. So first, he's shocked. How could Devaki give birth? So Imogen understands that Devaki has a very strong position, right? A position which should be feared by Kaṁsa. So immediately becomes fearful. Second is, he sees that Durga is decorated by nice clothes, she's wearing, Durga generally wears red silk sari, and then she has this 8-arm form, she's wearing garlands, and she's carrying all these weapons. 7 of them are all weapons, the only one that's not is a conch, which is to declare the beginning of any fight. So he is immediately fearing, how could a baby girl be born and so decorated? And how could she just fly up in the sky and situate herself in the sky? So all this is very astonishing for Kaṁsa. Shishi Kalanitaya ki jai. Shishi Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shishi Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnava ki jai. And then she's appearing in the prison house. And instead of a son being born, a daughter is born. So he's astonished with all these happenings. Yet, being demonic in his nature, we understand that he can do anything for his personal benefit. And realizing that Durga has now appeared from the womb of Devaki, this is what he is thinking. But we know that she was born of Yashoda mind. He's looking at his benefit, so he becomes fearful. And what does Yogmaya say to Kaṁsa? She says that, first she tells him that you have been causing a lot of trouble to Vasudeva and Devaki. And killing their children will not be the solution. Because Lord Krishna, he has already taken birth. The one who is going to kill Kaṁsa, she is telling him, the one who is going to kill you, has already appeared somewhere else. So Lord appears by his own sweet will. He doesn't need anyone to be, he doesn't need a home and all. But he decides to take birth and take, his devotees to be his parents. So as we discussed in the previous chapter, that's there. And now, Kaṁsa, he is immediately, after Durga disappears by giving him, he is at this particular moment astonished, wondering what's going on, and he's in a fearful state. And the first action he does is he immediately opens the shackles by name Vasudeva and Devaki. And he starts begging for forgiveness. And again the effect of Yogmaya is such, this is showing the compassion. That Devaki and Vasudeva understood very well that the 6 sons who were killed, they were because of their own past karmas. Right? So even though previously Devaki was, in a poor state, as Shukdev Goswami is narrating to Parikshit Maharaj, and she had to use Daman, Sam and Dana, strategies. And now the position has reversed. Now Kaṁsa is in a fearful state. And he's giving explanation, which is a fact, that those 6 sons, she should not lament she's telling Devaki and Vasudeva, that you should not lament the death of your sons, because it was just time by providence. I was only the medium. Now, in the book, it's very clearly given by Srila Prabhupada and also Vishnu Thakur. This is very nicely. This was that time. And there was actually a curse that those 6 sons had received in their previous birth. They were the sons of Kalini. And who cursed them? Hiranyakashipu cursed them. That in their next birth they would be killed by their own father. So in this birth, those 6 sons of Devaki, they are appearing. And who Kalini is appearing as who? Kaṁsa. So it was already destined by providence. As sanctioned by the Lord, Supreme Lord. So here, when, Kaṁsa is giving these, so he's stating facts, he's not giving excuses. Clearly stated. And then they become compassionate toward Kaṁsa. And so, by showing paternal relationship, Kaṁsa is immediately, taking them back. And this is where this chapter ends. Yet there are many interesting lessons. I was able to just collect 11 and that's where I stopped with. So there are many lessons in this chapter. But again, we need to understand first the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya. So let's quickly visit that. Yogamaya, so again, Tattva. Krishna Tatastha Shakti. So living entities are the marginal energy. The external energy is Mahamaya, the internal energy is Yogamaya. And these are the 3 energies of who? Lord Krishna. So we understand is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains it very nicely with the example of a bank of a river. So the bank, the slope is the marginal, and the water, so this bank of the river, when there is a lot of rain, the water rises, so it can either be under water or it can be above water. Right? When there is summer, there is a lot of heat, the water descends, so at that time it becomes visible. So that's the state of us living entities. So we will either be under the shelter of Yogamaya or Mahamaya. So when the water is above us, we are under water, that's being represented as under the influence of, under the shelter of Mahamaya, and we are, in this material world. And then, if the water goes down, then we are above the water, so we are under the shelter of Yogamaya. So from that perspective, yet at the same time, and there is a difference given, Shaktas versus Vaishnavas. Who are Shaktas? The devotee of Goddess Durga. And then Vaishnavas are the devotee of Lord Krishna. Now we understand that Yogamaya as well as Mahamaya, they are devotees, they are also known as Vaishnavi. So again, we get various names. So Srila Prabhupada in the 13th verse talks about this. The goddess Durga is celebrated in Calcutta as Kolkata, right now, as Kali. In Bombay as Mumba Devi. In Varanasi as Annapurna. In Cuttack as Bhadrakali. And in Ahmedabad as Bhadra. So, in different places, she is known by different names. Her devotees are known as worshippers of the Shaktas, and devotees are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas worshippers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself are called Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are destined to return home back to Godhead in the spiritual world, whereas the Shaktas are destined to live within this material world to enjoy different types of material happiness. So again, these Shaktas are referred to as the devotees of Mahamaya, Durga, who is the superintendent of this material world. So that is the difference. Now sometimes people get upset, but it actually is very nicely explained by the Acharyas that when people are worshipping Durga, they are worshipping for sense gratification. So the motive differs. It's the attitude with which we approach differs. So if someone is approaching Yogamaya to engage in Lord's service, right, because she is devotee of the Lord, then they are benefited. But the Shaktas referred in the purport by Srila Prabhupada are the ones who are approaching the goddess Durga for their sense gratification. Like, Brajbari Prabhu talks about it. Like, give me a house by the sea, Jai Jagdish Hare. So even when sometimes people approach Krishna, they approach it for sense gratification. And with that mood when they approach, then they are more bound in this material world. However, there is a difference even there. Because akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udhara tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purisham. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam it is clearly stated, whether you have no desire, which means soul cannot be desireless. It's referring to, no desire is referring to no desire for sense gratification. Rather you have all desire to serve the Lord. Or if you have all kinds of desire, sarva kama. Or if you have desire for moksha kama, for liberation, tivrena bhakti, with great enthusiasm you should engage in devotional service. So that's been referred here. So when you approach, so sometimes people can say, wait a minute, if I approach Goddess Durga for sense gratification, I am bound in this material world. But if I approach Lord Krishna for sense gratification, am I still bound? Because when you approach Krishna, there is a second thing that's happening. Lord Krishna may grant you what you are wishing for, but he grants you one extra thing. He frees you from that desire for sense gratification. While in case of Yoga Maya, you get further, deeper and deeper into that sense gratification. Because sense gratification is like putting ghee, a clarified butter, in fire. Does the fire burn out? No. While in case of Lord Krishna, when you are approaching Lord Krishna, then that desire, the fire goes away. Because you understand that Purush Param, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that we should be engaged in his service. So knowingly and unknowingly, if we come to the Shatra of Lord Krishna, we get relieved of this attitude of sense gratification. Yeah, we get purified. And the process is very simple. Just by raising hand and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And now, somebody could say, well, this is a perfect time that Kaṁsa is feeling so regretful. But Devaki and Vasudeva, this is a perfect time for them to preach to Kaṁsa. Right? But they're only consoling him. Why so? So in the purport, Acharyas explained, and Srila Prabhupada refers this from Chanakya Pandit, this reference is, Uddesha hi murkhanam prakopayana shanti. If a foolish person is given good instructions, he becomes more and more angry. Moreover, a cruel person is more dangerous than a snake. That's another saying by Chanakya Pandit. A snake and a cruel person are both cruel, but a cruel person is more cruel. Why is a cruel person more cruel? Because a snake can be controlled by the mantras and by herbs, but a cruel person cannot be controlled. And when you are trying to give instructions to a materialist who is just seeking sense gratification, you only anger them. Right? Srila Prabhupada in one of his lectures referred to materialist as madman. What can you teach a madman? You know, the person is mad. He is mad by all the opulence he is seeing in this material world. He doesn't know that it is nowhere compared to the opulence in the spiritual world. So here, they are not preaching to Kaṁsa because they don't want to further upset him. They know he is demonic by nature. He is going to do what he wants to do. And right now, they just have this, again, they reestablish their relationship, yet at the same time being very cautious. So as Kaṁsa takes them out, what does he do? He sleeps overnight, and do you think he's able to sleep? Now that he has heard that his Kamal has taken birth, Krishna has taken birth, Vasudeva Krishna is there, who's going to kill him. So he will sleep. If he sleeps with all his lights on, all his guards on. Because Krishna can come anytime. He's constantly fearing and thinking of Krishna. So even there, is Krishna conscious but unfavorably. And in the morning, being demonic in nature, what does he do? He calls his advisors, right? Looking for advice. And he narrates to them what all happened at night. And these advisors were all demons by their nature. And what's their advice? That we should kill all babies born in the last 10 days or so. That's the first advice. Second is that if Vishnu has appeared to kill you, then all these demigods, because demigods are afraid of you, first of all. They are trying to first, make him feel comfortable, to become fearless, because he is in a fearful state. The demigods are afraid of you. Lord Shiva has gone to the forest. And Lord Brahma is constantly engaged in performing austerities. And Indra and others, they are so afraid of you, so they are trying to make you fearless. And they have taken birth, so as they understood, but Nara telling Kaṁsa earlier, that these demigods have taken birth in the Yadu dynasty. So we should suppress them. So it's the Yadavas, the Yadu dynasty, people born in the Yadu dynasty, they should be suppressed. And we need to start persecuting these kings and the Brahmanas. And here Srila Prabhupada writes very nicely that this material world has gone worse than the time of Kaṁsa. So in this material world, people are constantly creating trouble for the Brahmanas. They are opening slaughterhouses for the cows. And they are killing babies in the womb, abortion. Right? All these activities are going on in this Kali age, which is much worse than the time of Kaṁsa. And yet, at this time, Lord appears in what form? In his golden avatar, as Lord Gauranga, right? Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And then, more magnificent than Lord Gaura is Nityananda. Right? We had, day before yesterday, Nityananda Trayodashi. And Nityananda Prabhu is showing by his example that behavior, right? He's showing by his example, he's first of all showing Dasanudas. Second, he's showing his benevolent nature, the beneficent, the magnanimous nature. Now, Nityananda Prabhu is godbrother of who? Madhavendu Puri, who happens to be the spiritual master of Ishwar Puri, who happens to be the spiritual master of Lord Gauranga. So if you look at the position consciousness, he is godbrother of the grand spiritual master of Lord Gauranga. Yet he is serving Gauranga in spreading Krishna consciousness. So the position consciousness that we have is not going to benefit us. It will only make us envious. So we have to give up position consciousness to really be Krishna conscious. That's important. And then Advaita Acharya. He's an expansion of Mahavishnu as well. When he was teaching children, Nimai, Nityananda Gaura, when he was young, toddler, he would come to bring food for his brother, elder brother. And he would come and then he would listen to Advaita Acharya. So Advaita Acharya could say that he was one of the students in my class. But no, Advaita Acharya is serving Lord Gauranga in spreading Krishna consciousness. That's Dasanuda's attitude. And so Nityananda Prabhu, when he's preaching, sometimes even Advaita Acharya, Vidas Thakur and others, they would like, it's very dangerous to preach with you. Because Nityananda Prabhu will take his blessings to places where nobody could go, right? So he approaches Jagai and Madhai. And what happens? Jagai throws a pot. So, Jagai, the name is actually Jagannath. So again, he comes from, both the brothers, they are from a Brahmin family. And they've become these constables, the policemen. And they have taken to define all spiritual injunctions. They were doing, if this is a sin, let's commit it. If there's a better sin, let's commit it. They were so sinful that they were opening the Shastras in the mode of ignorance and they were trying to commit the biggest sin possible. And Yamaraj was going crazy because he had a whole room dedicated just to Jagai and Madhai, as Acharya has explained, to collect their sins. So, Nityananda Prabhu, he is approaching them. And when Lord Gauranga comes to know that Jagai Madhai, they hit with a pot, Jagai hit with a pot, and Nityananda Prabhu is bleeding. Lord Gauranga appears. And what does he do? He invokes his Sudarshan. What does Nityananda Prabhu do? What does he do? He immediately catches the feet of Lord Gauranga. He says, no, you're the most magnificent, you're the golden avatar. You're not to kill anyone. You have to deliver them. Patita Pavana. So Narottam Das Thakur sings about this nature. So he's Patita Pavana. So more magnificent, the more worse the condition, more magnificent devotees have to become. So that's an example, more compassionate. So in case of Dwapara Yuga, when Kaṁsa appeared, Vasudeva Krishna appears to kill him. In Kali Yuga, people worse than Kaṁsa appear, so the devotees who appear have to be more magnificent to make them Krishna conscious. So that should be the attitude. Here at the same time, trying to preach to a madman is dangerous. That's just one of the important lessons we should take from this chapter. That we should not try to preach to everyone indiscriminately. As Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna consciousness is for everyone. Because Jivira Swarupaya Krishna Nityadas. Every living entity is an eternal subject of Lord Krishna. Krishna Tattva Shakti Veda Veda Prakash. So we are the marginal energy, the living entity is the marginal energy of the Lord. And Tattva Shakti Veda Veda. So when we are engaged in the service of Krishna, then we are simultaneously same and not different. This is very interesting. Because in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna is telling Uddhava that you are not different from me. Because Uddhava has only one attitude, to serve Krishna. And Krishna, in that case, only reciprocates to Uddhava. So there are two things to be successful in this material world. Actually, there are two things to be successful everywhere. I asked this question. I got some responses. Kids give you amazing responses. So what are the two most important things to be successful in this material world? Somebody said, Google and Yahoo. Another person said, no. YouTube and Google are better. Well, in Damodar Leela, we hear about what are the two important aspects that are needed. One is An and Jiva. And then the second is Lord's mercy. So when Yashoda Mai was trying to tie Krishna, which will happen later, we'll cover that later. Every time the rope was falling short by 2 fingers. And these 2 fingers represent, the first finger is our endeavor, our engagement in devotional service. And then the second is Lord's mercy. But just because we are engaged in devotional service doesn't mean we become authorized to get His mercy. Because he is still a person, he may decide to withhold it, right? And a very good example is, gopis, they want to see Krishna constantly. Yet at the same time, he is in upper akrabha. He is invisible to their eyes. And they are under the influence of Yog Maya. Mahatmanas to Mahapada Devim Praktimashraya. Now when Lord Krishna is saying Mahatmas are under the influence of Devi Prakriti. So the shelter of Devi. Here he is referring to Yoga Maya. So in Vrindavan, Yoga Maya, she is the Vrinda Devi, she is making arrangement of all the pastimes of the Lord. So from that particular perspective, he is even withholding himself from being visible to the gopis because that would increase their love for him. So this is Lord. There is another saying, man proposes, God disposes. So we hear time and again, yet at the same time we feel, if we are engaged in devotional service, that means we are authorized. We are definitely going back home. Well, that's Lord's desire. And Acharyas have explained that when devotees are constantly engaging in Lord's service, then Lord gives them a chance to first participate in His pastime before He takes them back home. So that's also another factor. And in this current time, Lord appears in three forms, right? Lord appears as the deities. So deities are none other than Lord Krishna, Shri Radha Krishna, Shri Radha Madan Mohan. He appears as Srimad Bhagavatam, the scripture, and then he appears in his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So in this chapter, we heard how Kaṁsa was so atrocious and continued to be so because of his demonic nature. While Devaki and Vasudeva were so munificent, they were so magnanimous in their behavior, that they were even trying to save the daughter of someone else, Vishwanaya's daughter. But Yogamaya didn't need any saving. She was self-sufficient in teaching, comes to the lesson, and then she disappeared. And we should try to be, take to the attitude of favorably, Krishna conscious, not unfavorably. Because being unfavorable will cause us to fall down and will cause darkness to spread. While if you are favorably Krishna conscious, then the light will spread. We will reflect from the sun instead of from the darkness. Hare Krishna. So this is where the chapter ends today. And in the next chapter we'll hear how those instructions or the advice given by the advisors of Kaṁsa, they are carried out. And again, there are many devotees, some desired and some were cursed, who appear in Krishna's pastimes. And of course, the first one is Putana. So as we'll be hearing more about them. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Very nice.
Hare Krishna. Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nanda Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hri Hri Go. Hare Krishna.
Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai.